Welcome back to the channel, guys, and welcome to all my new followers. It's been a little while since I've uploaded a video, but we're back, and in this week's video we're going to talk about Luminar or Luminaire 100. Luminaire or Luminar 100 is basically Kodak Aerocolor IV, which is an aerial color film, C41 color film. That, as the name indicates, I'm assuming it's being used to, shoot aerial photography. And it's supposed to have a higher sensitivity to the red spectrum. And we'll talk about that a little bit as we go over the photos, which is something that I haven't really noticed. And I think that you're not really supposed to notice when developed correctly and printed correctly. I think it's just basically designed in order to see through a haze. As you can imagine, if you're shooting from high up, there could be a red haze going on, which this film is supposed to see through. I don't think it's an aesthetic that you're supposed to see after you've developed it and scanned it. The developing process natively is an AN6 developer, which of course I didn't develop it in that. I developed it in C41 in my good old trusty Arista kit and scanned it with the Epson V550, which the Epson is starting to show its age, but it still did a good job. Naturally, these days I test any film. And, this isn't really a test. I've only shot one roll, so this is more so my first impressions. But, I look at every film nowadays through the lens of street photography. Yeah, 100-speed film isn't the most ideal film out on the streets unless you have a nice, bright, sunny day. As soon as you start going into the shadows or it's overcast, you might lose shutter speed. Or you might lose depth of field, either one of those two. And it's always going to be a little bit of a trade-off because when you shoot with film, as you might know, that the big advantage of digital over film is that you can have different ISOs or different speeds. And you don't have that with film. You're basically set unless you push or pull. Which is more applicable to black and white film in my opinion, but you're set with that. Having said that, I wasn't unimpressed with this film. I actually really do like it. I like the lack of grain. It's a very sharp film. I do like the results that I got with it. And overall, I can't really knock it. Now, Luminaire or Luminar, it's been respooled by a company called Photo, if I'm not pronouncing it incorrectly. It's a little bit of an obscure company in Canada. There's not very much known about it. I'm assuming they just buy that film in bulk from Kodak and then they respool it, which I'm happy they do because more film on the market is just better for us film photographers. The only thing that I will say locally here at $15 an hour, locally here at $15 per roll, it's definitely, a bit more steep for what it is. I think it should be a little bit lower. It is a high quality film. It does compete, in my opinion, with Portra even, and that is, I know, a very big statement. But if you look at the skin tones, the colors, the lack of grain, all that kind of stuff, it's a very high quality film, then I think that statement is definitely warranted. Why don't we shoot into the sequence, guys, and I'll see you guys at the other end of it. Thank you, man.
That was a good turnaround.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. I made this video a little while ago. I was very excited to shoot this film. It was available locally, but yeah, like I said, that $15 price tag is a little steep. That doesn't make it so much fun to use that specific film to create a body of work. You know, if you're just a casual shooter, by all means, absolutely shoot that film. But for me personally, I'm trying to create a body of work at Deep Ellum in order to create something out of it in the future. And, you know, paying $15 per roll. Right now I shoot about maybe 1 roll per week. For me, that's good enough. Sometimes 2 rolls, it really depends. But 1 roll minimum a week. and having to spend, $30 a week, that it starts adding up. So the less I spend on film, the more film I can buy, the more I shoot. That is sort of the mantra or sort of thought that I subscribe to lately, and for me that's Kodak Gold. But anyway, let's jump in the sort of first impressions. As I've mentioned, it is a very sharp film, and you can see that all across the board. I'm gonna look along with you on my tablet here. And you can really see it across the board. If we, for instance, take this guy in his red jacket, there's just plenty of sharpness there. You don't need it any more sharp. And I deliberately picked that photo because you can see here that in the background, the film is actually a little bit cooler. It's definitely not as warm as, for instance, a Kodak Gold. And you can see that compared to Kodak Ektar, for instance, Kodak Ektar has a lot deeper reds. They're more pronounced. They're more saturated. Having said that, this is not an unsaturated film. It's definitely beautiful. It's a beautiful film. I didn't do anything other than scan it in, and then did an auto contrast and an auto color and a sharpening in Photoshop. And once again, as mentioned, I scanned it with the Epson V550, so these are the results that you get that way. As we all know, a lot of people nowadays scan with their digital camera, so I'm sure you'll get different results. I've seen results that are all over the place. I've certainly seen results that look orangey, and I don't think that film originally is really designed or created to look that way. As you might imagine, this film is probably, I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, but probably fitted on at least a medium format, if not a large format film, a 4x5, with it being aerial. So when you get prints off of that, I doubt it that people are going to want to see a bunch of red or orange in there. I like the colors. I really love this film, and I would shoot it more were it not for this price tag. Kodak Gold I can buy here locally for $8 per roll, under the Fujifilm brand, and that's definitely a film that I've been enjoying lately. I can recommend definitely Luminar. Let's look at another photo. Well, one other thing that I want to mention first is, so the 100-speed film, you're going to get a lot of this, as soon as you're in the shadow and you don't open up all the way, you might get a little bit of motion blur here. I probably was below a 60th of a second here, probably more so around a 30th, and you get a little bit of a motion blur. You can see that with this gentleman as well here. This is even worse. I've had it on another photo. These two ladies with the umbrella, you get a lot of motion blur. This wouldn't be a photo that's per se unusable, but just to indicate, with the 100-speed film, I think for me personally, shooting out on the streets, a 200-speed film is the preference. Because you can still shoot with enough depth of field and with a high shutter speed enough in order to freeze motion. So that is definitely something that you have to keep in mind. It wouldn't make the film unusable to me, a 100-speed film, because I've shot plenty at Deep Ellum with Kodak Pro Image 100, which is certainly still one of my favorite films. Yeah, it's definitely gotten even more expensive than this film. So yeah, shooting with that or having, building a body of work with that film is really not, wise anymore to do, financially feasible even to do that unless you're independently wealthy. But let's look at a little bit more at some of the colors here. I took this shot in Deep Ellum specifically on a sunny day because these films are all designed to shoot at the Kelvin value of a sunny day. And you can see the beautiful colors here, that beautiful deep rich blue, the red, everything is just, the green of the tree is just beautiful, very realistic. And again, no orangey haze to it. I'm sure there's going to be, there'll be a few color Nazis out there that'll say like, hey, Davey, that doesn't look right. It's not supposed to look like that. But I'm certainly happy with these results. You can always tweak it a little bit more. You can tinker a little bit more. You can drive yourself nuts sitting behind the computer in Lightroom trying to fine-tune every single slider. But at some point you're going to have to say like, good enough is good enough. This works for me, and this certainly works for me. And then there was one other photo here. Let me see where it's at. That I definitely... Oh yeah, the night photo. It's definitely a film that's suitable for nighttime photography. Yeah, needless to say, you're definitely going to need a tripod. But what I like about it is that the film sort of scans in a bit flatter. Not the most flat film that I've ever scanned in. But because it scans in a little bit flat, you can add a little bit more later. You can add some more contrast. You can add some more saturation. And you can add, whatever you really want, more sharpness. But a beautiful film for nighttime photography, in my opinion. I would definitely use it there a little bit more. And I didn't even adjust anything here for... reciprocity. I don't think it's necessary as it is anyway here, because there's plenty of light. And with reciprocity, I think it's often misunderstood. In this shot, we're exposing for the lights and not for the dark. Were we to expose for the dark areas, we definitely need to calculate in some reciprocity, but I didn't do that here. And you can see just the beautiful colors, even for neon. It does well. It's a bit more muted, but at least it's 100-speed film, where at night we don't get a nasty, grain, very pronounced grain, which is something that really during nighttime photography I try to stay away from. All in all, definitely also a very good film for portraiture. Again, you could see that with that gentleman with the red jacket. You can also see the skin tones here with the lady who's standing behind the door there. The skin tones for Caucasian people are just really gorgeous on this film. Yeah, like I said, this is definitely a film that competes with portrait even, in my humble opinion. I can recommend you this film, maybe not to build a body of work on that requires you to have thousands and thousands of photos. In today's day with these crazy film prices that we have nowadays. But all in all, a beautiful film, one that I can highly recommend. If you're looking for something different that is really in its own, really, doing its own thing, then I can definitely recommend Luminar 100. Poe Photo, thank you for respooling it. I think Santa 100 or Santa Color 100 is essentially the same thing. So, whichever one is more affordable, go with it. It's a beautiful film. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Love you, and I'll see you in the next one.